let's welcome Lyn on stage. She is Head of Agile and Business Analysis Practice at CMC Partnership Consultancy Ltd. She is a leader, business consultant, trainer, agile coach, author, practitioner, and international speaker. And she has over 25 years experience of adding value to organizations in both the private and the public sectors. She will talk about business agility and the personal journey. Welcome on stage, Lyn.
Hi, nice to see you all. Thank you very much for inviting me along. So I want to share with you today my story, the personal journey that we've experienced within CMC towards our business agility. So, and I'll give you a little bit of background as to why we've taken this approach. But just to sort of start with, I guess, just to frame this a little bit, I just want to talk about what is business agility and why we felt it was important to take ourselves on the journey and what we've learned, I think, which is really, really important. So what I'm going to be talking about today. So what is business agility? That's only one slide. Most of this is around the business agility journey. So then CMC's business agility journey, the approach that we took and the challenges we faced along the way. I think we seem to learn more, don't we, from our challenges than from all the things that go swimmingly and smoothly. I also want to revel a little bit in the things that we have achieved, but also take a little bit of a time out and a reality check on the things that we have learned as well through our light bulb moments. So I look forward to sharing our story with you. So what is business agility really? Because it's good that you understand what I mean by business agility before I launch into the journey that we have taken. So business agility can mean many things, but the Business Agility Institute frames it as a business agility is the capacity and willingness of an organization to adapt to and create and leverage change for their customers' benefits. And I think that's really, really important because today organizations need to adapt quickly. In the digital era we're having to adapt through technology. I think COVID has probably presented the biggest challenge in adaptation for many organizations, including our own. But being able to adapt quickly to market changes isn't just about external adaptation, it's also about internal adaptation. And I think that's where I want to focus a lot of this talk today. It's also the ability to respond rapidly and flexibly to customer demands. We often talk about our environment today being VUCA, which is one where it's volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And I think a lot of people would recognize that about their organizational environment that they're operating within. Customers have become more demanding, and it's not good enough now to have annual plans or year-long plans of what we're delivering. People want things, in 6 weeks, in 3 months. And if we don't get our products to market quicker, then we can often lose consumer or customer loyalty or lose out to competitors. The ability to adapt and lead change in a productive and cost-effective way without compromising quality. I think that's really, really key. Doing things quickly, but maintaining quality is imperative for an agile organization. And also continuously to be at a competitive advantage. So there's a lot of things in the environment that need to be in place for an organization to be agile. CMC is a consultancy organization. We have been consulting for over 20 years in business change and transformation and helping organizations accelerate their learning and change journeys. We're out there with clients all the time. But how many consultancy companies actually eat their own dog food? How many consultancy companies actually turn back on themselves and say, what we are telling other organizations and advising others to do, are we actually doing this ourselves? So this journey is really us doing this because I felt that if we needed to truly understand what business agility is for our clients, then we need to have that experience too. So CMC's business agility journey is all about this, but our drivers really come from, and starting back in about 2017, we've been expanding our practices for a number of years now. And it says BABC, but we've got an agile practice. We have business change consultancy, we have analysis and business analysis and delivery leads and so forth. And we've been expanding that. We also demerged from our sister company back in 2017. They were all one company, and there's a side of our organization which does training consultancy in ProSci change approach, and we've demerged from them back in 2017. So that caused a bit of disruption. We've put a lot of emphasis into growing our agile practice, and that's something that I'm very much leading on. Back in 2020, this was a really great decision. We actually transitioned to Office 365. I think we literally transitioned in February, and COVID hit us in March, and having the teams and that environment set up was actually instrumental in us continuing our success, but was a major disruption. On top of that, our key shareholders and managing directors want to retire, and our organisation, rather than being sold, has been transformed into an employee-owned trust. That's a huge shift for our organisation. I should say as well, we're a small boutique consultancy in that there's only about 45 of us, so it's not a big organisation. But actually moving us all from an organisation to partners within an employee-owned trust meant that we are all now responsible for the future of the company and its success, and we will reap the benefits of that success. That really changes how people think about the organisation, and we've had to do a lot of change as well in terms of how we figure all of those things out. We have a strategy in the beginning of 2021 to grow 50% over the next 5 years. All of these things, the IT, the move to an EOT, the change in the legal structure in terms of the demerger, has actually meant that our back office is starting to reach breakpoint. The processes and things that we have that is managing our business is becoming, well, they're stretched, shall we say, they're stretched. Staff are flagging that there is change saturation, and that became more evident in our last staff survey, and it revealed that we needed to change. So part of that change, and part of my role as a leader, was to adopt a strategy for change that I think that we would put on our clients. These are the things that we would be talking to our clients about. We needed to become an agile organization. We needed to be able to quickly adapt to change. If we weren't able to deal with the changes that we've had over the last couple of years, and we were creaking up the seams, I think it demonstrated to us that we weren't adaptable, that we couldn't pivot fast, and we can't move quickly. And that has to change if we want to be a successful organization going forward. Also, I think there's this word transformation that I just want to sort of, it's a bit of an elephant in the room really, in that transformation sort of defines that there is a start state and an end state. This isn't about a transformation. This is very much about an agile journey. And I'll talk about that more as we move forward. So what is CMC's business agility approach? And here's a nice little rich picture that I put together to try to talk about business agility from 3 different levels within the organization. Any organization and every organization has different levels, and each level or hierarchy within the organization has different demands in terms of improvement and change. Right at the top, we have our directors. So that's your seniors, your execs, your C-suite, whatever you want to call them. But it's very important that they have and own and believe in and have buy-in to a vision for whatever the change is that they are sponsoring and supporting. And this is demonstrated here by having a clear vision. I'll explain what the columns are in a moment. But moving across horizontally, the other thing that the C-suite people need is some sort of way of being able to measure success. That doesn't sound very agile because everyone's, oh, we don't write all this paperwork and documentation. That's not true. Agile doesn't say that. But actually, we do need to prove that there is some success, and there is, we have OKRs or we have KPIs or CSFs. So there's got to be some way of being able to demonstrate that change is happening and being and is measurable. The other thing on here, I've put servant leadership. That should actually say intent-based leadership. But we need to demonstrate from the C-suite all the way down, right from the very, very top, there has to be some leadership alignment And that leadership alignment through the coalition needs to demonstrate intent-based leadership. Instead of telling people what to do, it's about letting people say, I intend to do this. Is this okay? Yes, this is okay. That's very different to sending commands down the hierarchy. Sending commands down the hierarchy disempowers people. And we, even within our small company, we had evidence of this happening within our management structure and framework. Building a coalition from the top is absolutely crucial for any change. Because they need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And building a coalition of seniors to really back up and support that change becomes critical, because if that coalition doesn't exist, then you end up with a separation of perspectives. They go in their own directions. And when you have seniors that are misaligned with each other in the way that they think, then that misalignment or misunderstanding of information propagates all the way through the organization, and you end up with pockets of things operating in different ways with different messages. So having that coalition right from the top aligned with that vision is absolutely critical. And then lastly, don't be so proud as a C-suite exec or a leader to accept coaching. I'm a coach, I'm an agile coach myself. I have coaching from at least 3 different individuals. I receive coaching from an agile coach. I receive mentoring and coaching from Joseph Pellerine, who's a good friend of mine. I know he was going to be talking, he'll be talking later. Please do go to his talk. We collaborate on a lot of information, and that's really good to get that external viewpoint. And I also receive coaching from a non-exec director. I think it's really, really important that people reach out. Coaching isn't about, because you can't do something or you need help. Coaching is about helping you see through and reach your own conclusions, and is a really important part of being a successful leader. The CMC, the middle layer is really where the change starts to happen, and that's what we call, I always call this top down, bottom up, middle out. And middle out is the glue that hits all those things together. So part of our vision is to have a roadmap of change. That's not a plan, it's a roadmap. Now, our next future roadmap is very different to having a plan. So the things that are important we do now, the things that are less important we'll do next, and the things that are even less important we'll do in the future. And we may bring some of those things forward. But they're the things that the ideas, if you like, the conceptual ideas that we have to achieve the vision. And then we have this current future. I mentioned earlier about a transformation. This isn't really about saying we have an as is and this needs to be a to be, because that would define that there were an end state, and that's not what we're saying here. Moreover, what we're trying to address with this current future is, in the current state, we have this massive ball of wool where everything's like spaghetti and it's intertwined, and we need to make sense of it. Another way of looking at that is saying we have a whole load of bottles and we want to make a really nice cocktail. And that's really what I mean by that next stage. This next bit over to the right with the brick wall is, how do you help people with giving them the right toolkit? You can give them all the right toolkit, but how do you get them to use the right tools to help people and get them over that wall? And we have to provide that support within our organization. And one of the ways we're trying to do that is by building our own internal agile coaches. So we now have a coaching academy within our organization. There's only 3 of us. 3 of us is fine within a small organization. And we coach the middle management and also provide some training and awareness and everything for everyone across the organization. The next layer down, if you like, the consultants and our staff, is really where the change happens. And we have to recognize that change is observable behavior that you see in individuals, and really change comes down to just that. And with our business agility journey, that's what we were looking for, is how do we apply that agility within our individuals? What behaviors do we expect to see? I think there's too much emphasis nowadays on agility being about processes and following methodologies. We're not talking about methodologies. We're saying to be agile, we want to see agile behaviors, and we want to see people adopting an agile mindset. And that's a very, very different thing to measure than is that methodology being followed. if we can see those observable behaviors, then we think people can move into, this is from Dan Pink, the autonomy, mastery and purpose, and we can help each other climb that mountain towards agility mastery. And that's really what we're trying to get out from this diagram. So I hope that explains our sort of vision behind how we're trying to achieve this and the journey that we're going on. I've just overlaid across the top the ProSci change methodology, if you like, across the top, because I don't think agile and change often gets overlaid, and it's a really important aspect when you're going on a transformation. Oh, I said the word transformation. When you're taking a continuous improvement journey, such as we are with business agility. And the first column really is focusing on awareness. How do you make people aware of why we need to go on the journey and what that journey is? The second column is desire, is, in providing people with awareness, are they more likely to want to go on the journey? Do they see the benefits and say, I want to achieve that, I want to be part of that? And those two stages are really, really important, I think, as leaders in taking people on that journey, because very often people start at knowledge. They'll say, we're going to do a change, we're going to change something. Let's start with putting people on a training course. Training course actually starts at knowledge, and you can train people, you can throw them on 20 courses, you can give them all the certificates they want, but if they don't have the awareness of why and they have no desire to change, then that knowledge is all wasted. So we're trying to put a lot of emphasis into the awareness and desire before we focus on knowledge and whether they can use that knowledge through their ability, and then how do we reinforce that so it sticks. So I just wanted to add that and overlay that sort of change approach on top of that. So the challenges that we faced along the way, well, this was really interesting. We're a consultancy. And one of the first things I did on this business agility journey is I put out a couple of posts about why, doing the awareness, the vision, and asked people if they wanted to participate. Now, bearing in mind, most of our consultants are out with their clients, in the day job, and this was going to be 4 or 5 o'clock on a Monday evening often to meet up. Who knew you could have too many volunteers? We literally had, I think, 20 people in the first meetup that we did around business agility. There was so much interest from the organisation. That's nearly 50% of the organisation wanted to participate. As an agile leader, I didn't want to turn people away. I was like completely surprised. I thought I'd be lucky if I got 5 people that I could work with and that we could take this forward and have a working group around it. But having 20 was quite a lot. The other interesting thing is that actually brought us into this not knowing where to start. And we actually collaborated our way into what I would only describe as a mural frenzy. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but everyone's going, let's start with the 4 Ps. Let's start with a value proposition. Let's start with this. Let's start with a team charter. Let's start. And we literally spent 4 weeks going round and round in circles, starting from a different position, creating a different mural board. We were just going round and round. It was like, how many consultants does it take to change a light bulb? You've got 20 really high qualified consultants in a room, and we could not figure out where we were going. This was a bit of an eye-opener for me. I was the agile coach, I'm the agile lead, I'm the practice lead. It was my venture, if you like, yet we were just whirring around, and I didn't want to dictate to everybody what we were trying to achieve. And I think this is one of the lessons that I will come back to shortly. Additionally, on top of that, people would turn up one week and then they wouldn't be there the next week, and I'd have a different set of people. Part-time change is really hard, right? Change is always part-time because change is part of people's day job. As a leader, you should have change somewhere in your title. All leaders are change leaders. That just goes with the job as being a leader. But yet people still have their day job, and creating change and putting a big change on top of that takes a lot of energy out of you. This made me think about the way we do consultancy, in that we're often being brought into organizations and they then say, oh, they can outsource change to us. that's never going to be successful. And I had nobody I could outsource this to anyway. We just had ourselves. But you can't outsource change. Change very much has to be owned by the leaders. Everyone in the organization has a responsibility as a change leader. But I think what this identified to me is, as a leader, even though I wanted to be agile and I wanted to work in an agile way and be really, really collaborative, I still had to be directive as a leader. I had to provide direction, because without direction, we were just going to keep going round and round and round in circles. And 4 weeks of going round in circles, I think, was enough for anybody. So what did we do to address some of these initial challenges? Well, I realized very quickly that the way we were working didn't look like any agile team I had ever seen, any agile team I'd ever coached, and any agile team I'd ever worked with. And I knew things had to change. If we were going to do business agility right, we needed a proper change team around it, and that change needed to work and operate in an agile way. So we put something, I created a form, and I got people to volunteer people to assigned roles, and said we needed a core team, and that core team would have some time. They could have time away from the client, but they would be the one core team, the change team, that were going to take this organization, our organization, forward on its business agility journey. The roles that we created were included a sponsor, a product owner, scrum master, and then our development team in the agile context, if you like, was made up of people with delivery, change, analysis, agile experience. So those were people that understood the work that we were trying to achieve. People voted, were allowed to vote for themselves or others. And people were allowed to say whether they were interested in being voted for. And very quickly, we had a core team that was recognised. So it was self-organised. I didn't dictate it, but I did dictate the approach, if you like, that we've got to have a core team. The very first thing then I did with that team is we ran a team canvas. I don't know if you ever come across a team canvas, but it's a really good way of taking a new team and bringing them together. Very often, teams aren't teams. They're a random group of people that are put together. And I wanted this to be a set of people that were working together towards a common purpose, that we respected what each other wanted from the work that we were doing, that we had very clear needs and expectations of what we wanted the team to achieve, but also what their personal goals were as well in terms of their own learning, so that we could, self-organize the work around some of their learning. We wanted to put together some rules as well about how we would work together and what we thought some of our strengths and some of our weaknesses were, and the values. And this was a really key exercise in terms of building that team and pulling us together. The other thing that we did is we put together an iteration. We weren't going to follow Scrum in terms of 2-week iterations, although Scrum doesn't dictate 2 weeks, to be fair. We actually created a 4-week iteration, because when you're working on a change, people don't change quickly, right? If you've ever looked at how quickly habits form, a month isn't long enough to form a new habit. And, when I've tried to give up alcohol for January or tried to go to the gym in January, I've been testament to that. But in terms of you're changing habits and helping people change, we couldn't make change happen every 2 weeks. And nor did we want to. We wanted to take people on the journey, nor could we, in our part-time way of working, actually do enough work to get to things that were tangible within a week or 2 weeks. So we created our own iteration and cadence, which was around having a week 1 would be kickoff and planning. Week 2, we would have scheduled thinking time where we would work through things together. Week 3, there would be a little bit of a show and tell and a mop up of what we've done and what we want to achieve. And week 4 would be another show and tell. It would be a retrospective and would be a stand up based on what we were, where we were and what we wanted to do next. And we continued that. That cadence worked for us. So you still need to have an operating cadence, I think. And I think everyone knew where they were in that, and that was really important. The other thing which comes back from my own learning was I identified very clear goals. And if you see this picture at the bottom has those green circles on the left-hand side, those were my now next future goals. Those are the things I wanted the business agility working group to achieve I didn't dictate how they achieved them. That's the ideas that they came up with. And I was part of the idea generation as well. But I was really clear on what it was I wanted them to achieve and how I prioritized that, because I was actually voted in as the product owner because I had the clear vision behind what we were trying to achieve. One of the other things that we did is we built a community of practice. And in that, we brought in people external to really help us understand some of the things that we knew we needed to understand more about as an organization. And I've called out Joseph here and Zuzi because last year I didn't know Zuzi or Joseph, and I was at an agile meetup and Joseph was talking and he mentioned Zuzi, who he had been working with, and they're both agile psychologists, or psychologists and agile psychologists. And we contacted Zuzi. She was doing some work. She came in to speak with us, to talk to our community of practice. We then got Joseph in to talk to us around our community of practice. And they really, really helped us understand some aspects, or a lot of aspects around psychological safety and cognitive diversity, things that we had not been aware of, things that we needed to be aware of, and things that we are actively trying to practice now. And I mean everyone. I think so often as leaders, we always think, change is things other people need to do. Well, I got news for you. We need to change as leaders. I needed to change. I needed to learn too. We also did a lot of sharing and learning through our community of practice as well. We had Dave Snowden in, we talked about Kneffin, we talked about things like lean change. How can you make small change and do it in a lean way? And we did some agile awareness training as well. Our community of practice has been instrumental in taking us on the journey, because it's given us the platform by which to bring in external information. It's very easy to just stick within your existing culture and look within the four walls, if you like, of your organization and your culture. But if you really want to change things, you need to bring insights in from outside. And we found that that was key to some of the successes that we did. Actually, this is some of the common challenges that are faced. I've got one here from John Smarts. Actually, I know John's talking at the conference on Sooner, Safer, Happier, so he may even have this slide, I don't know. But it's quite interesting what are the challenges or anti-patterns to people adopting business agility. And then also on the left-hand side from the Business Agility report, the top 10 themes for addressing the challenges on the journey. And leadership sits firmly at the top. Leadership style. And I think when I talk about style, I think about whether it's directive, whether it's hierarchical, that sort of style. Is it, do they employ intent-based leadership, for instance? Are they actively looking to empower people, or are you willing to actually empower people when you're having conversations? But leadership, either the lack of leadership support or different leadership styles, actually, I think addresses what we were trying to get at right from the start, which leadership coalition and leadership alignment is absolutely critical to support any sort of change. And I think there are too many leaders out there that pay lip service or walk the walk in terms of, yes, I'll support this, but it's somebody else's problem. They need to change, but I don't. Well, that's not true. If there's a change, it usually the leaders need to change as well. And it's very, very important. The other interesting thing on here on the business agility, the Sooner, Safer, Happier one, is the focus on practices and frameworks. That's come up as an anti-pattern. And I think that is so, so true. When we're looking at business agility, I think people look at it from an agile technology perspective. We're not looking at it from that perspective. We're looking at the agility mindset and how you apply that to an organization. That practices and frameworks don't really bear much relevance in that in that context. And the other things that seem to come out is culture and vision. So and I think when I was want to bring out on the left hand side is silos. Functional silos, I think, can be really detrimental to organizations adapting to change. In that, if you're head of marketing, it doesn't make sense for the head of marketing to put a lot of effort into helping the head of sales reach higher targets than they might reach. And you get this silo mentality, right? I'll work all the hours, providing marketing is seen as being the best bit of the organization. But marketing on its own can't deliver the value for the organization. You know, the organization needs to make sales, and if marketing is fantastic but sales isn't, then the whole organization also isn't successful. And I think we need to go past these silos and think of, you know, the value chain, if you like, of the organization. Where is value delivered across the organization, rather than focusing on these individual silos? I don't think that's really helpful at all. And I think our leadership needs to move away in some ways from siloed role titles to more of an outward mindset as to how the organization can improve. Maybe if they were all employee-owned trusts, they would think more about that. So we've done some great work and we've got some great foundations. So CMC has a clear business agility vision now. It's got a clear purpose and a strategy of what it wants to do with that business agility vision. In fact, we've taken it beyond where we thought we would take it. We have leaders within our organisation now who understand the need for, and are open to change. You'd expect that really as a load of change consultants, but a year ago, I don't think we were there. We have active sponsorship, but we're taking that sponsorship further, and I'm now presenting an investment proposal for further investment from CMC to take this further for financial year 22-23 next year. Our people now actively look for development opportunities. There is support for people to learn and grow personally and professionally, and they can take their, they have those opportunities themselves. They don't need to wait to be asked. They can actually present those ideas forward in a way that we didn't have before. Employee engagement is a strategic priority for us as an employee-owned trust. If our employees, and I say employees, they're actually, everyone's a partner now. If our partners are not engaged in our direction of travel and where we're taking the organisation, then that's really not a good thing. We all have to be engaged in that. And we have a culture of openness, practicing psychological safety. And again, I'll mention that in a moment. So it's December. We've been doing this now for 1 year, 12 months, pretty much to the date. I think the very first board proposal on this was in the 18th of December last year. So where are we? Some of our achievements. We have a really good business vision, which looks around our agility journey, and it looks into different areas of our organisation in terms of, do we have the right leadership and management? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right culture? Do we have the right ways of working in terms of how we operate and how we work? And actually, in collaboration with Joseph, we've taken this a little bit further forward now, and we're looking at how is our strategy? Do we have the right situational sensitivity around our strategy to be an agile organisation? Is our mission statement open enough? If our mission statement is closed and our mission just says grow by 50%, well, what happens when that's done? Is that it? Are we done? Have we achieved everything we need to achieve? We need our mission statement to be open-ended. We need to make sure our strategy is reaching further forward so that our organisation and our business agility journey has longevity. We need to make sure that we have alignment across all our leadership within the organisation, and that our processes and the execution of our processes and structure actually align to what we're trying to achieve within our strategy. All our leaders within the organisation attended the Certified Agile Leadership course and are certified. That was 17 people out of 45. That was quite a large percentage of people, but it was really key in creating that awareness and understanding of what agility means. And we've carried on with our schedule. We've even put into place a self-assessment on how we can assess our level of maturity within our organisation. I think this is a really interesting phrase. Sometimes we dismiss small changes because in the moment they don't always seem to matter. Small changes matter more than big transformations, because if everyone continues to make small changes, then you can ensure continuous improvement. And this has been around for ages. It's embedded within concepts such as Kaizen. I think even Deming talked about improve constantly and forever the production of service. of systems and service. So small change is more critical. And I think we all want these big bang transformations because then we can be in charge of it and never, but actually collective small changes make the change and more successful and embed change in a way that sometimes large organizational transformations can't. So what's changed for us? So we've got way more transparency now. When we do our review and rework, or we're doing a load of review, we're working how we approach our bids. It used to be that you know, people would decide who in the organisation would get involved in a bid. Now we state that the bids are, this is the thing we're bidding on, who wants to come in and help, who thinks that they can have the right skill set. So we've got that sort of self-organisation around how we bid. We have shared decisions now around how we bid and the recruitment process, how we bring in new people. So it's not just bottlenecked at 1 or 2 people. We have a much broader set of people in the organisation that can do that. And we have greater awareness of and consultant involvement in our recruitment process. It used to be bottlenecked around 1 or 2 individuals. And now we have a much broader set of people that are involved in recruitment. We can bring people in as and when we see fit in order to ensure there aren't bottlenecks and we can get things through the system. Decentralized decision making. Previously, staff had to ask or wait to be asked for promotion or be, wait for, annual reviews and so forth. Now staff can put themselves forward for promotion using a very lightweight process whenever they want, whenever they see there's a very lightweight criteria, and they put themselves forward, and they are putting themselves forward. And it's become very empowering for staff to know that and we find that they're more critical of themselves if they have to make the decision than if a manager makes the decision. Individuals decide when to take time away from fee earning work. It's not, the manager doesn't really know what's happening with the client. So, the consultants themselves know when, if they want to do a course or a training course, when's more appropriate and has less impact on their client than your line manager or somebody else. So we allow them to make those choices and make those decisions themselves. Professional development, and when they take that and what professional development they need is now decided by them and them only, and they can self-organise around that. And also our line managers now have responsibility for staff reward rather than our board. And all of this has pushed a load of decisions from our board through across the organisation, which means we have lots more fluidity of how we make those decisions. Increased staff engagement. All our staff have something called talk flow every year, which is where they capture their own objectives. This isn't objectives that they have to meet for the organisation. These are the objectives of things they want to meet for their own personal development. Not just personal development, but things they want to achieve as a partner for the organisation as well. They decide, and they're in charge of doing that. The conversation they have with their line management is really about what do they need and what help and support do they need to help them achieve that. We've been doing lean change workshops to encourage small change. So that Kaizen of small changing, and some of the benefits we've seen through our recruitment and bid processes come about through those small changes. The Business Agility Working Group, which is the Borg working group, has been up and running for over 12 months. It's the longest standing working group that we have ever seen and had within our organisation, and is still meeting on a weekly basis and still making great strides forward. The engagement levels we have in that has been fundamental. Also, I think the amount of information that we share through and the people coming through that Business Agility Working Group has actually extended the agility understanding and has contributed directly towards us becoming a more agile organisation, because people are more aware of what business agility means. And we have a brand new vocabulary. The terms like transparency, fixed versus growth mindset, psychological safety were just words. We didn't know what they meant. And now our common vocabulary that we use within our organisation. And increased agile awareness and capability. We have developed 3 agile coaches, myself and 2 others. We have people that, all of our management has gone through the certified agile leadership training. We are developing further certified scrum masters, so we have more awareness. We are continuing agile practice and learning within the Borg, not just through rotating people through the Business Agility Working Group, but also by the agile coaches providing courses through our community of practice. So our community of practice, our business agility working group, our coaching cohort has all come together, and we're now offering all of that stuff, which is just cementing the business agility sharing that we wanted on this journey. So huge awareness now of agile and business agility. In fact, we did, I've been running an agile awareness course within CMC for about 4 years. And I did it in the early days. There were some people that came on that course, and I've been running it every year since. But since we've been doing the business agility working group this year, I had a huge attendance. We had like 17, 18 people, and it was being run by the agile coaches. So we changed some of the slides to bring them up to date. But other than that, we made no changes whatsoever. And our head of operations came back to me and said, Lyn, that course was really, really good. It's come on so far, she said, in the last 4 years. The slides have been updated and the content. She goes, I really understood it this time. And I said, Claire, the content hasn't changed. None of the content has changed. It's exactly the same course it was 4 years ago. And it was really interesting. And she sort of looked back, she stepped back, she went, well, I must have changed then. And I went, yes, I think you have. And that was an amazing success, I think, from what we've tried to achieve. So our light bulb moments, I appreciate I'm running out of time and I apologise if I'm overrunning. Directive leadership, a clear direction is essential. Yes, it's good to be collaborative and play to people's collective and individual strengths, but you still need to be clear on the direction of travel, and you still need to have directive leadership. You can't just let it all be collaborated into a frenzy. Do practice psychological safety. Your best team is made up of people who are committed to the journey and feel safe being themselves. As a leader, you're instrumental in making sure that psychological safety is followed. One of the things that I have actively done myself is I ask, don't tell. So when people come to me and say, Lyn, what do you think of blah, blah, blah? I'll say to them, that's a really interesting question. What do you think? You must have something in your mind if you've raised the question. And then they share their thoughts with me, and then I share my thoughts, and we enter a discussion. If I just tell them what I think and I haven't listened to what they think, that's not a discussion, that's me telling them what to do. And I want to empower people that work with me and work for me. So I think that's really important. That's part of that tent-based leadership. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Oh, we've made a few mistakes on this business agility journey, and I'll put my hand up to a few of those. But we're doing that in a safe environment, and I don't mind. And I'm quite happy to say when I've made a mistake, and I'm quite happy to be called out on those things, providing it's done with honesty. Being kind and honest with yourself and others is really, really key. And one of the things that we've raised in here through the psychological safety is being nice isn't the same as being kind. So you might think you're being nice by not saying something to people about something they did or how it made you feel, or that you don't think they're doing a good job or whatever. But if you're saying that, if you're telling other people that, that's not kind. It's really important that we understand the difference between being nice and being kind, and really what we want is to be kind to people. There's really good models such as SCARF that you can use to help think about where you're feeling threatened, if you like, whether it's status or whether it's around fairness or whatever that you can use. So those are some of our learnings. I hope that's been useful for you, and I will end there and say please do contact me, and those are the ways you can contact me. I apologise for overrunning a little bit.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this honest story of your agile story. I quite enjoyed it. We have one question for you that says, you mentioned lack of leadership support as a leading challenge for fairly obvious reasons, but do you think a dedicated leader can pressure change without the support of the lower levels?
Not pressure change. I think that's it, isn't it? So I think this is where intent-based leadership, I think a good leader takes people on that journey with them. I don't think it's about pressuring change, but I think if you can have the respect of the people, that work around you, and they believe in what you're saying because you do it with integrity and honesty, then I think they're more likely to follow. I don't think people respond well to being told what to do. I don't think we live in that era anymore. I think people want everyone wants to be recognised for their own integrity. And I think, talking to people and explaining and, rallying the troops around that vision is really, really key. So, yeah, I hope that's answered the question.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your talk today.